Hi, welcome. My name's Stephen Frost, and I'm an artist that's part of the Queer City of the Plains exhibition in Denver, Colorado at the McNicholas Building, part of the Denver City Civic Center. Today, we're going to be doing a flag design workshop. I'm really excited to be with you here today. So let's get started. Let's look at what we're going to cover today in our workshop. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about what is a flag and how flags are used. I'm going to talk about the evolution of queer pride flags. We're going to look at what makes a good flag and what makes a bad flag. We're going to show you just some quick exercises you can think about when designing your own flag. And then I'm going to take a brief look at the flag that I designed called the Mile High Pride Flag for this exhibition, Queer City of the Plains. Thank you so much for being here today. Let's get started. Okay, what exactly is a flag when I say flag, right? Y'all pretty much understand this, but let's think about it a little bit further. Let's kind of dive in just a little. Okay, a flag is, of course, a piece of fabric. We all know this. It represents a symbol for a community, but let's look at these flags that I gave for us today to look at. We've got an American flag, a Colorado flag, the Philly Pride flag, and then, of course, the Denver City flag. All these flags, when you see them out and about, when I'm traveling and I see that Colorado flag on somebody's socks or on their luggage, I think, oh my gosh, there's a friend. There's somebody from Colorado. I'm going to go introduce myself, right? So they have a sense of civic pride. They let you know that you're a part of a community. When I see that rainbow flag anywhere in the world, I think there's a queer person, or that's a queer friendly person. That's not always the case, but it could be, right? It opens that door to conversation. It's flashing your flag, your symbol. Now, this idea of fabric flags, it didn't come from Europe. It's not a Western concept. It actually started in the Chinese Zhou dynasty. Pretty cool, right? It was before the Common Era, somewhere between 1,000 and like 350 BCE is when we first had the first flags. Now, I'm a professor of media studies in the College of Media Communication Information at CU Boulder. Now, I have to say that whole long acronym. So you're going to notice a few times I'm going to just get nerdy on a couple of these topics because I get really excited about how we communicate. And flags are one of the first ways that people communicated ownership of a nation or belonging. So the flags, because of the trade routes, the silk trade routes and the spice trade routes, the concept of the fabric flag spread to India and then into the Muslim world, where then it was adopted by Europeans. They saw the people using flags. Now, one of the things that's really cool, if you don't know this about design within Islam, is that for many years, the idea of representing physical people was seen as not cool, right? It was blasphemous, right? But that led to all sorts of amazing, beautiful mosques and so many incredible design interventions, like flags with plain colors and flags with shapes. Instead of having a drawing of a king or queen, instead you'd have like shapes that sort of represented them abstractly. Thank you very much, Muslim world, for that. That is amazing. I'm so excited. And those flags were used on naval ships. And then those naval ships, of course, were from specific countries, and you had to know which flag belonged to which country. That was important. And then after they were used on the ships, then they got adopted by the country. So it kind of didn't happen the way you think. Ships were like, we need something to represent our country. We'll make the flag. And then the country's like, that's cute, let's do it. And so that's kind of how that worked backwards. I could go on forever in this, but we're going to actually jump forward just a little bit. I want to actually ask some critical questions. I want us to think about flags as they're used, right? Flags are part of the history of colonization, nationalization, and they can be used as propaganda, as I'm sure many of you know, right? In fact, in Russia, rainbow flags are outlawed because they're considered queer propaganda, which they are, but also like, why are you outlawing queer propaganda? You guys need to get with it. All right. There I am and throwing my values on other countries. It's terrible. But let's just think for a minute, right? When people got on the moon, they put that American flag in the soil. Now, does America own the moon? No, absolutely not. But it's that idea, it gave that sort of impression that America owned the moon, right? There's something very colonial in that and problematic, right? Just by showing up and putting a flag in the ground doesn't mean you own a space. But that's the idea, is that sometimes flags have this idea of ownership. They can be exclusionary. I belong to this club. Here's my flag, right? People have taken on the American flag to represent certain groups or certain ideologies. That's not necessarily the case, but it leads to a lot of questions. So when you're designing your flag, you want to really think about the symbols that are already out there and how you plan to use the flag inside of your community. Let's look at a community that has had a lot of success with their flag. It's a community that I'm proud to be part of. That's the LGBTQIA community. In 1978, the mayor of San Francisco, the first openly gay mayor in the United States that we know of, he was a city council member, not the mayor, but it was Harvey Milk. And he asked that they design a flag, Gilbert Baker designed a flag for the 1978 San Francisco Gay Pride. And you know, Stonewall had happened less than 10 years ago. This idea of bringing together the LGBTQIA community underneath one flag was an amazing idea. Thank you, Harvey Milk. And Gilbert Baker was an amazing person who came to San Francisco from Kansas, nearby Colorado. Go Kansas. And Gilbert just hand-dyed, created this 9-color flag that we all know. It's beautiful, right? Well, actually, most of us probably know the 6-color rainbow flag. That's the one that most people are familiar with. Wait, didn't he design a 9-color flag? Yeah, exactly. Pink and that light blue color, they were so expensive to print, so they cut out, actually, they cut out the lighter lavender, the pink, and the light blue. They cut them out. Sad, right? Well, it was inconvenient and expensive, and it allowed the flags to be cheaper and more mass-produced. Kind of sad. But what's really cool is it later led to another story within the LGBTQIA flag history. This is Monica Helms. She used deleted colors, that she used that light blue and that pink to represent the trans community when she designed a flag in Arizona in 1999. What an amazing idea. At the time, in the late 90s, early 2000s, the trans community was really trying to grow their voice instead of the LGBTQIA community, in terms of the gay community, because often cisgendered people were in leadership roles, cisgendered people were pushing forward their agenda, but the trans community, while their T was often in that acronym, they weren't often in the room. And so Monica was like, you know what? That reminds me of this history of where it was inconvenient for these 2 colors to be printed. It didn't work for the rest of the gay community. And so she used that deletion as the magic. Now, Queer City of the Plains co-curator Genevieve Waller reminded me that those 2 colors stand for sex and magic in the LGBTQIA flag, which to me is amazing. And I'm so glad Monica used those colors in their design. Let's look at a few more designs as the LGBTQIA pride flag developed. So in 2017, a marketing firm in Philadelphia decided that they wanted to address the idea that people of color, BIPOC people inside of the LGBTQIA community were not also, their voice was not being heard and their stories were always being represented when it came to pride. And so Philadelphia, which is a city, has an amazing history of people of color and being part of the LGBTQIA community. They wanted to make sure that that was forward-facing, to make sure that that was included, that their stories were as important as everybody else's stories in the history of the gay rights movement and the queer pride movement. And so they put forward what's called the Philly Pride flag. It includes a brown and a black stripe, right? Showing us the importance of recognizing the contributions of intersectional identities inside of the LGBTQIA community. Okay, another amazing innovation by LGBTQIA people. Daniel Quasar Z created the Progress Pride flag in 2018, just the next year, right? And they were so in love with that Philadelphia flag and the trans flag, which we talked about before, right? So they integrated those 2 designs into their flag. And on top of it, they acknowledged this project that we have in the LGBT community to work towards more perfect representation for everybody in our community. And so that Progress flag put the trans flags and the POC flag in a chevron, pointing forward, pointing off into the distance, right? Pointing to show that people within the LGBTQIA community are constantly working towards a better community, right? It's beautiful. And that pride flag doesn't just say, this is who we were, this is our history, this is who we are. It acknowledges that things develop over time and that we're moving forward as a community. You can see down in the corner is actually a picture of that flag hanging in front of my house. I love the story of that flag. And so I flew it powerfully, and I'm still flying it in front of my house this year for the month of June, and maybe just going forward. So let's talk a little bit about this broader spectrum of queer pride flags. There's so many there, right? One of the cool things about Gilbert Baker's original design is that they have horizontal lines, and then there's always these unconventional colors, colors you don't often see in nation flags, often things that are pastel or colors that maybe flag as queer. And so you'll see even in, while the pansexual flag doesn't include all the colors of the rainbow, it does include like a pink and a pastel-y blue, right? So if you may not know that that is a queer pride flag, but if you see it, it has the horizontal bars and has the kind of queer associated colors included in the flag. And that, ding, 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 you may not know exactly what it stands for, but you can tell it's related to the history or is a queer pride flag in some version or another. Great job. Oh my God, Gilbert didn't even know how good that design was. It's still like giving us stuff. It's amazing, right? Okay, so when you see one of those flags, your job, take a picture, take a mental note, look it up, make sure you know, okay, cool, cool, cool. Got it. That's a gender fluid flag, gender fluid pride. You guys are amazing. Y'all are amazing. So it's important for us to look at those flags, think about these histories, and move forward with them together, okay? So all these LGBTQIA flags, and specifically the original Gilbert Baker rainbow flag, have become ubiquitous symbols across the globe. Anytime you see a rainbow flag, it could stand in for a safe space or a queer community, or this is a place where there are queer people. It just incites, kind of in that way, the same way that putting a stake in the ground on the moon, right? It says this is American property. When you put that rainbow flag out, it says this is a queer space. It is actually, in a weird way, a sense of owning, right? Owning that space for queer people, or taking up space as queer people. This idea of visibility is so important inside of the LGBTQIA tradition. That's why the flag has developed and changed over time as visibility becomes more and more important. Now, we can see also that rainbow flag has been used in things like social media. In 2015, when same-sex marriage was legalized, the rainbow flag, people put it over their profiles on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, which was still a thing at the time. Just kidding. The thing that was beautiful about this is that people weren't coming out as LGBTQIA, which was the typical way that the rainbow flag was used. This was actually a really unique instance where people were coming out as allies, coming out in support of LGBTQIA people. Beautiful. Even the White House, where the president sat, a president who came in to the office of the presidency in 2008, at the same time Proposition was passed. Barack Obama didn't support gay marriage, only civil unions when he was elected. But then, when marriage equality was passed, the rainbow blue, or the rainbow, was projected onto the White House to represent progress, right? To represent that White House support of progress for LGBTQIA people. And one of the things that I think is interesting about this story as well is that when Barack Obama left the White House in 2017, the last night he slept in the White House, they had the rainbow colors up again on the side, showing once again the progress that happened underneath the Obama administration and how proud they were of that progress. Now, a lot of people fly this flag or use this flag on different products. Some argue that these symbols have become overutilized and that we should just throw out flags altogether and stop using them for the LGBTQI people, because that rainbow, man, you can get it at Walmart. You can get Budweiser rainbow things. You see these TV heels that I've got here? Okay, link below, send them to me. I might, no, just kidding. I don't need those heels. I don't need that extra. I'll fall on my face. But what I want us to think about is that when you see this rainbow flag out in the world, people that are flying that rainbow flag, are they supporting LGBTQIA people? The acceptance of LGBTQIA people has spread. It's much more common than it used to be in the past, even 10 years ago. And now it's a marketing tool, even more than ever. So is it being used, when you see people flying that flag, are they using it for the right reason? Does Budweiser giving money to LGBTQIA nonprofits? Are they treating their LGBTQIA employees equally to everybody else? Make sure to ask those questions when you see a company, a corporation, or a bank. My bank flew that flag the other day, and I was like, okay, cool. Are they a gay-friendly bank? I don't know. Gotta check this out. You gotta do your research when you see people. Don't just assume that when you buy that rainbow flag, it's going into the pockets or helping LGBTQIA people. Something called virtue signaling. But hey, start. Now, if you want to read more, find out more information about this amazing history of queer people using design and symbolism, you want to check out this book by Andy Campbell. Now, I'm going to put some links below where you can order this book. I've got some bookstores that actually Andy Campbell would love you to order from, supporting some BIPOC businesses that he's supported in the past. So go ahead, grab one of the copies of this book. It's amazing and it has histories of all the different symbols of the LGBTQIA movement. It's an incredible book. So definitely check it out. It's pictures full of pictures. I love pictures, right? All right. What makes a good flag? What makes a bad flag? Now, this is a question that was asked, of course, by the North American Vexillological Association. Not vexillology is the study of flags or the love of flags. You should join that organization, right? What I want you to do is, I'm not going to be so good at explaining this, but I want you to watch a video, link below, link on the thing, I'll put it in the end. Watch a video, it's by Roma Mars. It's a TED Talk, it's about 18 minutes. Every second is worth it. They talk about the history of city flags, why they're good, why they're bad, and why we should consider designing beautiful city flags for all of our places. And that's one of the things that we can do here today. You don't have to be designing an LGBTQIA flag. We could be thinking about community flags, city flags, all sorts of things. Your organization could have a flag. It would be lovely. The gist of the video is that there are 5 important principles for us to remember. Keep it simple, use meaningful symbolism, use 2 to 3 basic colors. We're gonna break that rule, we're queer people, we like colors. We're gonna break that rule, we're gonna break it. No lettering or seals, that's a very important one, and be distinctive or be related. Now, I put up on the screen the Vermont flag. Now, Vermont is the state where I grew up. We have this seal. For the life of me, if you ask me, can you draw this from memory? Can you draw this memory? Keep it simple, right? This should be so simple that a child could draw it from memory. Well, as an adult, I cannot draw that seal from memory. I saw it many times, saw it every morning in high school, right? But no, I can't draw it from memory. It's a seal, it's got a cow on it. I thought the cow was a Holstein cow, but apparently it's red. Who knew? It's a mess. So simplicity is important. Right there, we're looking at the 1964 adaptation of the Colorado flag. Now, what's really cool about that is in 1964, Colorado decided we want to standardize this. So the red is the red of the American flag, the blue is the blue of the American flag, and the white is the white of the American flag, right? What they're doing there is they're following another one of these great design principles, be distinctive or be related, right? So it relates to that American flag color, but it's distinctive in its own right. It has that sun inside of the Red Sea. Cool. We have a cool design, Colorado. We did good. We did good. So just think about how you see your own state, your own city flag. Do some creative analysis as you're starting this project. Think, okay, what's good about this flag or that flag? And have a discussion with your friends or your community about it. Okay. So let's talk about these exercises for designing a flag for your community, whatever that is. So flag design, we're going to think about community survey, questions to ask. This cool design exercise called form storming, Roman Mars's approach, little tips from him, and then some required reading at the end, and I'll send you on your way. Okay. So what symbols, images, or slogans are used to represent your community currently? You're gonna need to take a little bit of an inventory before you start making your flag. And one of the ways that I suggest doing this is to, of course, have a conversation with people who are part of your community. Send them a chat, send them an email. Hey, what do you see? What do you think of when you think of flags or think of representation for our community? The other thing is to do this design exercise. It was created by Ellen Lupton. She has a lot of great books, but New Design Basics is the one that we take this from, and it's called, and there's an essay that I'll link below called What is Storm Forming by Ellen Lupton. And that'll help you think through, okay, what this exercise, and actually she suggests 100 images for her form storming, but I'm going to let you off because you're new. 50. We're going to do 50 images. We're going to do half, right? I'm a pretty easygoing professor, if you can't tell. I'm just like, God. I'm like, oh, it's so much work. Let's do a little bit less, but we'll get to the same point. So think about landmarks. Think about concepts, phrases. In the design essay that I'll have you read, I think they use eggs as a sample. And one of Alan's students made this, a picture that you see here. See an egg timer, don't put all your eggs in one basket. They didn't think just only literally about eggs, but also things that incite the concept of eggs, or how eggs are used metaphorically. That's a really great way for you to build a whole suite of ideas in the storm forming exercise, okay? So gather 50 images that represent visual iterations of your community. And don't just do a Google search. Look in books, look on social media, check it out, go on Reddit, find the best usages of that image for your community and bring them all together, okay? So the next step is to draw your flag. All right, I know you're gonna get nervous, but Roman Mars suggests you start with a 1x2 rectangle. Make a whole sheet of them so you can do a bunch of different designs. Why 1x2 rectangle? Because if you watch the video, they tell you, but I'm gonna tell you again. Look from a distance, right? And if it's 1x2, that's basically like a flag on top of a building. Right? And you want to make sure that your flag design is simple enough that you can see it across the street over up on top of a building. That's really, really important. So simplify details because incredible, okay? Start with simple shapes and simple colors. And like I said before, 2 to 3 colors, that doesn't work for me. In fact, the flag that I made has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-ish plus colors in it. So I didn't quite hit the 2 to 3 symbol part. But hey, you know, I think that the rainbow also is important for us to think about as itself being broad, right? Being able to be all these different colors. So find colors, but just stick to them. Create a little design suite. These 5 colors, these 12 colors. Really make sure they go together, but whatever they are, just make sure they have some story. Make sure they're important. Just don't make them random. Be distinctive or be related is also really important for us to go back. When I designed my city flag for the city of Denver, which you'll see in just a minute, I wanted it to be similar to traditional flags of some of the First Nation peoples that lived on this land for many years before it was occupied. And then of course, I wanted to also think about the Denver city flag. I wanted to think about all these other things. So being related, having your design not just be totally random, but related to things that people already understand, it helps them read it linguistically, okay? Then share your designs that you came up with your community members. Have a meeting, vote on that new flag together, okay? And once you've decided on what that new design is, the most important thing to do is fly that flag. Make buttons, make socks, make bed sheets, make all sorts of things with your flag all over it. Put it everywhere. Spread that message. Make sure your flag really communicates who you are, what you believe in, who you're part of, what your community is. It's gonna be great, okay? Fly that flag. I wanna see it, especially if it's a freak flag. It'd be good, right? Right, this is the flag that I designed. Now, look, I broke all my rules. Not a rectangle, it's giant, it's weird, has lots of sparkles in it. Thank you, Molly Brown. But I'm just gonna take you a little bit through how I got to my design. So as I said, I looked at a lot of the First Nation flags, and actually this image that's always been in my head is that at the entrance to the Standing Rock camp for all the First Nations people that were protesting the pipeline that was gonna go through Standing Rock, what happened was every nation that was there put their flags out. And it was this incredible visibility for all the First Nation groups that were part of this fight. And it also allowed people to think more about the people that had been or are on this land in our country, that our country isn't just made out of 50 states, it's also made out of many, many nations, right? So I love that image. And so I decided to think, okay, cool. I want to bring in some of those colors, some of those influences from the flags from the peoples that originally occupied this land here. I also wanted to think about Molly Brown's cape. Now, if you don't know Molly Brown, she was a Titanic survivor. She grew up in Leadville, and she joined high society of Denver. But at the time, Victorian ideals ruled the high society of Denver. And Molly Brown she was a mountain girl, and she did not give an F about their Sorry, I believed in myself. She did not care about all their high society rules, and she did things her own way. She was like a cowgirl. She was cool. She was kind of brassy and fun, and I love her opera cape. It was part of an exhibition at the Colorado History Museum. You can see the picture right there. And man, I just love that cape. It just imagined it being like in the early 1900s, having this kind of sparkly cape, how extravagant she seemed. She also she made her own rules. She kind of rejected Victorian morals, which I was very, very into. So I wanted to honor her as Denver's original diva inside of these flags. So I pulled some of the shape, some of the sparkles into my flag design. I also looked at the beautiful Denver city flag and of course the Daniel Quasar Progress Pride flag. You can see my original design, right, is a little bit more standard, and then I sort of abstracted it and pulled it apart. But you can see all those influences that came together, thinking about the histories of this place, but once again, pulling in that progress flag, thinking that the city of Denver, there's a lot of work to do here as far as representation in our LGBTQIA community and all over the city. So this reminds us, hopefully, not only that we are what our past was, Molly Brown, right, but also the history, the reparations that we need to make to improve our community. Okay, you ready for homework? Here's that list that I promised you all. Wonderful, right? So here's your list. I will put all these down below. These are not hot links, but I'll put them all down below so you can check them out. So if you have any questions, I want to see these flag designs that you do. Shoot me an email, hit me up on Instagram or on Twitter. Show me your flag design. What did you do? What did you come up with? What is it? I want to check it out. How did you decide on the colors that you chose or the symbols that you put into it? I've done this workshop with different people before, and I'm always just taken back by the beauty and the thought that people put into their flag design. So please, hit me up on Instagram at Harmony and Bad Taste or on Twitter at Stephen Frost, and I'd love to see what you do. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for just this little bit. Make sure that one of the most important things that you do is to go check out the exhibition, Queer City of the Plains. It's up through the end of August in Denver. Go check it out. It's an amazing show. We'll tell you all about the history of our city and all the amazing people that have made Denver the queer city of the Plains. Thank you so much, and thank you, the city of Denver, for helping make this video.